wherever you are in this world. Hello, hello. Welcome to today's live stream. We are in week 3 of the Aloha 25 December challenge, my weekly art challenge. This month's color is mustard yellow. I'm actually wearing a shirt that fits the challenge today. And we are painting and drawing this cute little kitten today. Kitten in a stocking. I think I used to say kitten in a sock. That was the original title of the live stream too, but I think it's called stocking, right? Not sock. Anyways, yeah, this was a very interesting start to my morning today. I hear my neighbor start his truck. It's a big truck with a flatbed in the back, huge. And then I hear a crash, so I had to go investigate. And of course, it happens at like 8:58, 2 minutes before the live stream. So yeah, the tree is down. So anyways, nobody got hurt, which is good. He didn't run into our house, which is even better. But gotta take care of the tree later. Anyways, everybody's fine. And let's get started with today's live stream. I'm going to turn the camera around, take a look at the chat, and so here we go. Turn that phone holder. All right, let's plug that phone in, and as always, please let me know if there is a problem with the audio quality. Oops, I'm sorry. And zooming in, zooming out, onto the paper. Just let me know in the chat. Okay, just put my computer on sleep mode. I don't need all my devices on. My iPad over here is enough. All right. Hi, Suze. Hi, Nina. Hi, Mom. Castine. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Tracy. My mom says, looks like I slept well. Yes, I did. I slept really well. I just had a little bit of an interesting morning. Al Standish says, listening from my car. Aw. Okay, I'll try to make it nice, like podcast style. So it's interesting to listen to as well. Okay, I'm drinking my tea, and it's chamomile tea. Honestly, guys, not my favorite, but my friend gave me this Advent tea calendar, which I love the concept of. Every day you have a bag of tea. It's a different tea every day, which I really, really like. And then, all the days until Christmas. And I kind of skipped this day because I'm not a big fan of chamomile. I gotta say though, this is pretty good. This is pretty good chamomile. I mean, considering it's chamomile, right? Okay, let's talk about supplies. As you can see, this is just a simple card I made here. I'm not even sure what paper this is. This was a scrap paper from the local art center when I taught my last class a few weeks ago. They gave me a stack of scrap paper. I think it's actually pretty good paper, but I believe this was printing paper because I had some minor issues with painting this motif. So today I'm going to use a different paper, probably. It's Hahnemühle. It's a 200 GSM 95 pound paper. It is cotton, but honestly for this motif today, you do not have to use cotton paper. You can use mixed media paper. It doesn't even have to be that thick because we're not going to use much water. And as I said, this is 95 pounds, so it's actually not even this sturdy, but it'll do. So I made this promise to myself a few months ago that I will totally reduce the amount of art supplies that I buy and purchase next year, and that I really want to go through especially paper that I have here. And this is one of the pads I actually bought a long time ago. And I'm not sure if you know that, but watercolor paper can go bad, especially in a humid tropical climate like in Hawaii. This was a great shock to me when I lost a whole pad to this climate. So the reason is that every watercolor paper has something that's called sizing, and that's not the size of the paper. The sizing is the coating. So every paper that's made for watercolor purpose is coated with, I'm not even sure what it is, but this coating can go bad, especially when the paper is subject to humidity and heat. So yeah, imagine you have some kind of coating on something, and then the coating breaks up. So the way you can tell is once you start painting, the paper behaves like a sponge. It doesn't behave like the watercolor paper that you know. And that has happened to me with a paper. It was so strange. It was almost like painting on a paper towel. So basically the whole pad was ruined. Long story short, I'm going to try and use up all my art supplies. This is the reason, or one of the reasons I'm using this paper today. And as always, I will write all the supplies I'm using down in the comment in the description box down below. As for paints, I'm basically using two colors today, mustard yellow, which is my yellow ochre. It's called Beach 2. The number 2 is only because the ochre pigment of my first version of Beach is not being manufactured anymore, and I had to change it to another pigment. I'm also using a color called Ohia. Ohia is a tree. It's a native endemic tree in Hawaii. It's the one with the red, orange, yellow pom-pom flowers. We've painted it before here in one of the live streams. And it's a vermilion red hue. And I'm also going to use a little bit of bronze shimmer. This one is called Kona Jazz. If you don't have these colors, don't worry. You can use any type of yellow ochre or Indian yellow hue that you have, or gumbauge. You can use any red, really, and some kind of metallic shimmer. This technique today, or you can do this card today very well with jelly roll pens too. See, because the only spots I used the metallic watercolor was the stars here in the background. I have two brushes today. They're both round brushes, very pointy. It's a size 4 and a size 6. And as always, depending on the size of your drawing, you have to change your brush size accordingly. The bigger you draw, the bigger the brushes should be. Let me get that down here. All right, and I'm using a pencil, my kneadable eraser, and I also have a Micron fineliner. This is the Micron pen. So it's a bit different than the regular Microns. You might remember the regular Microns have a bullet tip, and this is more, it's not a flexible tip, but it gives you more of a variation of a line. It's not so monoline as the other Micron pens. Let me show you another one for comparison. You know how many I have of these, and of course now that I need a regular one, I can't find it. But I literally have like dozens of these. Oh well. There's one. Okay, so this is a 01. So see, there's the difference. So the one on the top is the regular Micron, and then the one on the bottom is the PN pen, has a different tip. I like both. I usually go for the regular bullet tip one if I really want a very consistent line, but I tend to not want a consistent line, so I really like using the pen version of this fine liner. You totally do not have to have microns to do this today. You can use any kind of fine liner. And last but not least, I have two colored pencils. One is a raw sienna by Caran. This is our luminance. And the other one is a Derwent lightfast. So honestly, these are both really expensive. So again, you do not have to have exactly these ones. You can also use water soluble colored pencils, which is probably a good idea, especially in the live stream where, you know, I don't want to spend so much time waiting for everything to dry. I tend to normally use water soluble colored pencils. Okay, let's start with the sketch. Oh, one more thing, just because it's peeking in here. I made this tutorial 3 years ago. Can you believe it? And the cat has her eyes open. So if you prefer this open eye version over the cat we're going to draw today with the eyes closed and sleeping, then please feel free to do that. I'm going to try and place this cat here so that you can see this cat as well. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, and over in the chat, Nina says, thank you, that is so interesting. I suppose you refer to the sizing of the paper, right? Yeah, that was quite the shocker for me. I mean, I kind of figured watercolor paper will last forever. And honestly, over in Europe, I've never had this problem. This is only after moving to Hawaii. So, okay. Oh yeah, my pencil is a mechanical pencil. It was gifted to me by Sakura, the company. It's a Sumo grip 0.9, and I do love the fact that the eraser, which is not bad, you know, you can kind of like pull it out like this. But I just wanted to say this was a gift, so disclaimer here. Okay, so for the sketch, we're gonna start with placing our lettering below so that we do really have enough space later on, because oftentimes I start my illustration and then I realize, oh wait, I didn't leave enough space for the lettering. So always make sure that you have a little space for your lettering. You can also use stamps, of course, if you don't like lettering. You don't have to write anything on the card either. I mean, or you can change, you know, what you write. You can do like happy holidays, just something more neutral, or just maybe even not write anything on the card at all and just write on the back of the card. Then for the overall design, I want it to be fitting in this little box here approximately, so that I also have enough space for the stars in the background later. I don't want to fill the whole card with this motif. So this would be the approximate position of my elements. And then within my rectangle here, You can do thirds. So 1, 2, 3. And then in the top third, you want to place the head. The head is just an elliptic shape. And then another like semi-elliptic shape for the top of the stocking, the fluffy white top. And then you can add your stocking. It kind of looks like Saturn in a boot right now. Okay, the ears of the kitten. And because it's a kitten, the ears are pretty big. So I feel like the ears, at least it was the case with my 2 orange kittens, that the ears just seemed so big when they were tiny, when they were like 6 weeks old. And then the body grew and the ears kind of like stayed. Okay, and then the last thing is like a doorknob or something that this stocking hangs on to. And then because there is weight, you know, this is pulling the string down, you want to make it a bit thinner here at the top than on the sides, just to indicate that it's hanging and then there is some weight to it. So circle for the doorknob and then make your string a bit skinnier at the top. Okay, so this is a very basic shape drawing for our motif. Now let's go into the details. Suze says, I definitely prefer the closed-eyed version. Yeah, me too. You know, maybe difference between today and 3 years ago. Mom says, your cat looks so sweet, lovely, cute. Aw, thank you. Watercolor by Susan. Susan says, what's the other color of the colored pencil? So it's just red. See? So the Derwent lightfast Derwent red. Not very creative. This range, as I said, it's very expensive. They don't have a lot of colors. So it literally is just basic colors. I'm not sure how many there are, but I suppose it's the reason why they just simply called this color red. Okay, back to the drawing board. Okay, let's go to the face of our little kitten. I'm already gonna try and erase some of the lines. As I've mentioned many times, it is always a bit tricky to erase pencil on watercolor paper. That's why I really like the kneadable eraser. And this paper is actually really sensitive. It's kind of hard. Yeah, I don't think the camera can pick it up. But I can see that some of the surface fibers are already coming off. So very, very gently trying to lift these pencil lines. Rolling over your paper is sometimes the better approach too, and even more gentle than, you know, rubbing and scrubbing. Okay, so let's place the eyes, or let's start with the nose because that's going to be in the center of your elliptic shape. I tend to make little hearts for my cat noses. And then from little cat heart nose, a straight line down, and then the mouth. And I think this kitten is dreaming of something sweet because it's smiling slightly. And then place the eyes, 1 and 2. little rosy cheeks. Then 3 dots indicating the whiskers or where the whiskers are. A few whiskers going left and right, and then also a few here at the top. Very lightly. You don't have to draw these in if you don't, need to. You can just do this with the fineliner later as well. Okay, let's erase 2 more spots here to add the little paws. The paws are basically just half circle shapes, left and right. And then indicating the claws with a few short strokes. Next, let's work with the fluffy top of our stocking. Basically, you're drawing a cloud. Make sure that your little shapes here are differently sized. So you don't want to go all around and do the same shape, the same size. Make it smaller, bigger, and place them not all in the same direction either. See, this one is going kind of like in this direction. That one here is pointing downwards. Okay, and then for the details of the stocking. So the stocking is more or less pretty flat looking. I did put in a few folds here on the side to indicate that is a fabric. Imagine you're just doing like teardrop shapes to the sides. And make them uneven. You don't want this to look even because fabric also doesn't really fold even usually, and wrinkles, especially when there's a little kitten in it. Okay, how are you guys doing? Are you drawing along today? Let me know if there's any problems, if you run into obstacles. I just erased the line here up by the ears and adding a little bit of a detail here for the ears. I won't be drawing in the stars or the pattern of the fur of the kitten. I'm gonna do that later. But please feel free to, you can even make just little tiny dots to indicate where you want your stars to be. That's always a good tip to, just look at your space of the paper and just see where you want to add those little details. Okay, and then last but not least, for the lettering, I chose to write the word Mary in block letters, and then Katma's is, in lettering style or faux calligraphy style. So you want to leave a little more space for the Katma's. So let's divide our block down here. This is your space for the word Katma's, and this is Mary. Now for the word Katma's, you want to make sure that the T is almost in the center of your block here, and then the letter M right next to it. So I usually don't have to do this kind of design approach anymore because I look at the block and I know how big to make my letters so that they fit, because I've been doing this for many years. But if you're not sure, you can start from the center of the word and then shape the rest of the word around it. And when in doubt, you can always add a flourish. So if your word is too short, you know, you can fill the space with adding a flourish, for example. Not sure about this one. Maybe more of a flatter one, but that's fine. I'll change that later. Okay, so this is the sketch. And over in the chat, Nina says, yes, definitely painting along. I need some more Christmas cards as well. I think I will send this on to my mom. Aw. So does your mom have a cat? I mean, obviously this card would be great for folks who have cats at home. We have 3. We have one black cat, the oldest cat we have, and then 2 pretty young ones still. And they actually both look like this. That's how they looked when they were little. And they, of course, love to sit in bags and boxes, and they probably would love sitting in a stocking too. I haven't tried it yet. I mean, also because they would then probably rip it apart. Okay, with my kneadable eraser, I'm going over my design a little bit, making those pencil lines a bit lighter. You don't have to worry about this too much though, because we are going over the final design with a black fineliner. So other than when you have a pure watercolor painting where you really don't want the pencil lines to show up, this one is a bit more chill because we're going to define or redefine a lot of these lines that we made with pencil with the fineliner later. I'm mostly just trying to erase the lines of the boxes I drew in the beginning. Okay, and here we go. Let's start with coloring. So I have my yellow ochre. And usually I would, almost dip my brush in my tea. Okay, let me put my tea here in my painting water. Far, far away from it.
Painting your tongue again?
What's that, Jamesy?
Are you painting your tongue again? Painted tongue?
Oh, my tongue?
Yeah.
Have I done this before? Really? Oh my gosh. I'm not aware. I think he just made this up. So usually I would use a ceramic palette as well, but because this is a rather small illustration, I'm just going to use the paint right out of the pan. Okay, let's start with the cat. We're just going to color our cat in yellow ochre. You can draw over the eyes because, as I said, we're going to use fineliner later for more definition. However, don't paint over the mouth area because we want it to be staying kind of white. What you can do, if you like, if you don't want it to be that white, is to draw over it with colored pencil later. That's what I did in the original. It was very white, so I thought it was a little bit too much of a contrast. Alternatively, you can also just use a more diluted version of yellow ochre and paint this area as well. But I'm gonna just leave it white for now. Adding some contours for the ears. And you can see that I'm doing kind of like erratic strokes here to indicate the fur. So it's almost more like a dipping, pointing, not pointing, not sure how to call this. So instead of doing broad, straight lines, It's almost like a pointillistic approach here with my brush. Just doing this. Okay, and for the doorknob, actually, I do need a little palette now. Just mixing a brownish color with my yellow ochre and the red vermilion hue. You can even mix in some of the metallic color that you have if you're using watercolors. And if you have black at hand, that will be a good one to use as well to make it a bit darker. Let's see if I have some black. Yeah. Sorry, this is off camera. I'm just dipping my brush in a bit of black watercolor. That was a bit much. So in the original here in the card, I did not use black. That's why I didn't introduce it in the beginning either. But I thought, let's change it up a little bit. And adding a tiny bit more yellow. Okay, this looks good. Let's paint the doorknob. Okay, and then to indicate a shadow, just drop in some more paint here at the bottom of your brown circle. Okay, let's check if the cat is dry already. Not sure. So let's continue with our stocking. So whenever I draw illustrations like these, I want to make sure that I paint those sections first that don't touch. So not the adjacent ones. And with that method, you can just keep on painting. Otherwise, you'd have to wait till everything is dry. I'm picking up some water with my brush, and I'm going to add water to the whole stocking. Lots of water. Lots of water, but also make sure it's not pooling too much. And now I'm going to pick up some more pure pigment and adding it to the top of my stocking. And again, this is to indicate that there is a shadow right underneath the fluffy part. So you can imagine in this illustration, the light is coming from up here, and that the fluffy part here is casting a shadow right underneath it. And then usually you have some shadows inside the folds of your fabric as well. And here at the bottom. If your paper is really wet, your pigment might get away from you a little too much. In that case, do wait just a couple minutes before you add more pigment. Okay, I feel like the contrast is a bit too harsh here because it almost looks like it's a white and red stocking. So I just rinsed and dried my brush, and I'm just gently going to move or nudge the pigment from up here down to the rest of my stocking here. And the same thing from the bottom upwards. So I do want a higher concentration of pigment in this section here at the bottom and in the folds, but I don't want it to be too much of a difference in value. So it's I want it to look like the whole stocking is red. Picking up some more pure pigment, dropping it in here at the top. Then I'm rinsing and drying my brush again. I'm kind of doing the same thing, just gently nudging my pigment and distributing it over the whole stocking. Okay, yeah, I think that's probably gonna look all right. Let me pick up the paper and pop. Oops, sorry. Just look at it. Yeah, I think that's gonna be good. And we can also go back in with a colored pencil later on. Okay, my doorknob is definitely still wet. You can see it here. Going to take out some of the brown here with my clean and dry brush. To create a little bit of highlight here. And to also, you know, make the drying process a bit faster. And over in the chat, because I asked Nina if her mom has a cat, Nina says, no, at the moment only a dog, but she will love it as she loves all animals. Yes, same here. Loving all the animals. And mom says, Keiko-chan, I like this schwungvolle line painting. Oh yeah, she's so cute. Thank you, Mom. You're so sweet. Okay. I could either now go and use a hairdryer to dry my doorknob up here, or I could also just start with the background stars. So I think just to keep the ball rolling, I'm gonna just go ahead and do some of the stars. And for the stars, I'm gonna be using a higher concentrated amount of pigment. So little water, lots of paint, almost like a gouache. Again, I'm drawing stars a lot, so I don't need to do a drawing. I'm also not too concerned about them being really even, but please, please, if you're not comfortable with drawing stars freehand, then just by all means make a little pencil sketch first. And I'm gonna, in a minute, show you a few examples of how to draw stars. Okay, let me get another piece of, oh, we can just do it here. I'm gonna move this up, lay this down here. So, stars. I think one of the easiest ways is to do this. So you would draw this with a pencil. Classic star. And it usually leads to an even distribution of all the parts of the star. And then you can just take a concentrated version of your pigment and just draw it in. And then of course you can also do a star in a totally different way. So you start with kind of like an X, do another stroke through here, and then another one, And it's kind of like a snowflake star. And if you watercolor it, you would just go and redo those lines. Would be a bit of a different look. Kind of depends on what you prefer. Okay, so let's go back. Picking up some more. You know what? I'm gonna change to my smaller brush. I'm still using the size 6, but let's move on to the size 4. Make it easier on myself drawing those stars. Another tip, make your stars not point in the same direction. See, this is kind of slightly going in this direction. And then this one is more upright, and then this one down here, we're gonna have lean over to the side a little bit. This one's looking like a starfish. Okay, and then one down here. You can also make them different sizes, so they don't have to be uniform. See, this one is a bit smaller than this, my starfish. Let's make this one more upright. And again, you could do a variation with doing these all in a glitter color. You could also use different metallic colors. You could do gold and silver, for example, or maybe a red metallic. Totally up to you. Make sure you don't dip your hand into the stars you just painted or into your kitten and stocking in case they're still wet. Okay, one down here. And again, I'm changing the direction. These stars are pointing. Feel free to turn your paper too in order to avoid dipping your hand into your stars or drawing. Okay, another good idea for this card would be to add a metallic line on the edges, you know, kind of like around. You can do this with a metallic jelly roll pen really easily. Or if you like, you can also use a larger sheet of paper with a nice color and then glue this card on top of the colorful paper. Let me just get an example while this all dries. Okay, so this is what I mean. So for example, I painted this tree and I really didn't like what I did around it, so I just cut it out and then put it on a colorful background paper and then on top of another card. So it's kind of like a sandwich here. But for example, if you do the kitten, it turns out really nice, but then you mess up the lettering, you still have the option to just cut out your kitten and put it on a card. Okay, so there are two things we still need to add in watercolor. It's the facial features here, so little nose and cheeks in a very light wash of red, and then the string of the stocking. So for the string, we can use a higher concentration of pigment. Again, careful, things are still wet. But my doorknob here has dried, so that's good. Picking up a little bit more pigment. That was a bit too much and not enough water. Dropping in a bit more pigment here, right under the knob to indicate another shadow. And then a little bit more down here as well. And over on this side. Okay, and then for the nose and the cheeks, you want to use only a tiny amount of pigment. So we're gonna go for a pink more than a red. So it's mostly water and just a few morsels of pigment. Okay, over in the chat, Sue says, I got a bit carried away with my stars. I'm using Gansai Tambi and did some in red gold and then added more in yellow gold. Oh, that sounds amazing though. I think, you know, especially for a Christmas or holidays festive themed card, it's the best opportunity to get out your shimmers and metallic paints. Because usually, or at least that's true for me, I don't use a lot of shimmer or glitter paints in my everyday sketchbook drawings and paintings, for example, but I do love it for festive cards, especially. Okay, so before we go in with the colored pencil and especially the fineliner, everything really needs to be super dry. So this is the moment where I'm gonna go and use my hair dryer. I'm just adding one more little thing. I want a little bit of pink in the ears too. So I'm just going to pick up some of my pigment here, stealing pigment, and adding a bit of pink in the ears. That's it. Oh, wait, I forgot another thing. I forgot the markings of the, you know, the tiger markings of the cat. So let's do that and then I'll do the hair dryer. For the markings, use the same type of yellow you used for the fur. Just make it a really nice thick mix. As you can see, this consistency is almost like gouache. And then we're gonna add that to indicate the tiger stripes or markings. Adding a bit here on the ears too, on both sides. Okay, that's not enough water. I just dipped the very tip of the brush into the water. And maybe a little more water. This looks a tad too dry here. And some more markings here on the side. Ooh, you hear that sound? Mr. Coffee is bagging up some coffee. You know, after all this chamomile tea, I would not mind drinking a cup of coffee. Get that chamomile flavor out of my mouth. I know it's good for me, but yeah. Okay, a little bit of darker yellow on the paws and a bit down here. Okay, yeah, cute. A It's funny, so I made the head a bit more squished compared to the other one, and it's totally adorable. I really like it. It looks like this kitten is even like deeper into the stocking. I might just keep this card. I really like it. And you know, reminds me of our own kittens. Okay. Almost done with my chamomile tea. Not. I haven't even drunk half of it. Did you hear me say that I crave a cup of coffee? What? Because I have to drink chamomile tea here? Do you want some chamomile tea? It's really good.
If it's really good,
Uh-huh.
keep it up.
Oh,
You keep
darn it. Well, it was worth a try. Trying to get rid of my chamomile tea. Mr. Coffee said no. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna go hair dry this thing. Be back in a minute. Okay, that should be enough. Here we go. The good thing about a paper that is a bit thinner than regular watercolor paper is that it dries faster too. You know, the thicker the paper, the more water it absorbs and the longer it takes to dry, of course, especially cotton paper. Okay, so next steps, colored pencil and fineliner. So depending on the colored pencil you use, it might make more sense to do the fineliner first, because some colored pencils have wax in them, which is kind of like repellent even to fineliner. So we start with the fineliner, and then the very last touches will be with colored pencil. Okay, just make sure everything is really dry. You can check the dryness of your paper with the back side of your hand. Don't use the pads of your hands because of the finger oils. This looks really dry, and you can also make a visual test by moving your paper like this, and there should not be any sheen on it other than, of course, where the metallic watercolor is. Okay, so I'm gonna start top left and adding a few quick outlines. So this is really my style of not drawing outlines in a very straightforward way. This is why I also really like the Micron pen, because it gives me kind of like an inconsistent line quality. You're leaving?
Yep.
I'm not getting any coffee, huh? Oh well.
You want a coffee? I'll get you one.
Yeah.
I'll get you one.
Okay, I'm gonna drink my tea real fast. Almost done. Almost done. It's good for me. It's good for me. Oh no, that did not sound good. What did you do? Ah, don't tell me you broke the little cheetah cup. The tiger? I don't even want to know. Yeah, today we don't have Chihuahua interruption. We have James Bean interruption happenings. It's only because I sent him to make some coffee. See? Would not have happened otherwise. Mom says over in the chat, "You're lovely, James. Don't drink tea." Ha ha ha. Oh, he does. He loves tea. But I think, you know, chamomile. Well, I mean, really, there's no live stream without the dogs going off, right? So I don't know what the other neighbor is doing, but he's making noise and the dogs don't like it. Okay, let's focus. Back to the kitty. So I'm just gonna continue adding some wonky outlines to my kitten. What you want to focus on is that you draw the eyes with a bit of a thicker line. You know, you want the emphasis of your drawing to be on the kitten's face, so you got to give it a bit more reason. You know, you got to add some more reason for viewers to look at the face of the kitten. And one of them is to put emphasis on the eyes. And then with some quick strokes, I'm indicating the whiskers. I start in the face and then kind of like swoosh my pen outwards. Unfortunately, the ink in this one is a bit weak, but I think it actually works pretty well for the whiskers because they are skinny hairs, right? So the lines shouldn't be too thick. Indicating a little bit of fur here and there, and the ears. Okay, let's move on to the paws. And up next is our little fluffy cloud. So here I'm really just following my pencil outlines. It almost looks more like a bubble bath. Oh, and I did forget the mouth. So here we go. Next, the stocking. Again, I'm going all around. I have to press down a bit harder because really the ink is getting low on this one. And then here to indicate that there is a shadow, I'm adding some cross hatching. So cross hatching just means that you draw, just in case you've never heard of it, a line and then another line, and then you do this. So you cross your lines like this. You can do it in more than one direction, and the more you do it, the darker your patch will be. And this is a very effective way to add shadows and not drawing in a whole block of color. You can also do something like this, you know, almost like dots or little lines to indicate a shadow. It's fun to try out different ways to add shadows and to find your favorite one, and then you can use it for all your drawings, and it'll make your drawings be more consistent and give them your own style or your own, how do you say? People will recognize that it's your work, you know, when you use the same kind of style when you draw how you draw your shadows and how you draw your lines too. All right. Which one did you break? Well, not my Totoro cup. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah. I love you.
I love you. I'm out of here. Bye. Very elegant. Well, he did not break my Totoro cup. That's good.
Stay tuned next week.
Good coffee. Well, sorry, chamomile tea, you lose. Okay, let's move on to the lettering. You can use a different pen for the lettering if you like, but I'm just gonna continue with the same one that I used for the outlines of the cat drawing. When you come to the cat mess part, you can start with a simple line like this. And if you like it, just leave it. But you can also make some of the strokes a bit thicker. You know, to give your letters a bit more body. So I'm just playing around here a little bit. And then especially here for this part of the lettering, if you want to indicate that it's a calligraphy style of lettering, you can do a technique called faux calligraphy. Faux meaning is from French, means like false or fake. So in calligraphy, the stroke is usually thicker when you... Khalil. Hey. Hey! Yeah. Shush. The downstrokes are usually thicker than the upstrokes. Downstrokes meaning where you go down with your pen when you naturally write your words. So wherever there is a so-called downstroke, you can make the stroke a bit thicker. Like this. And then here, I always like to add little drops at the ends of my flourishes and swashes. But that's totally up to you. As I said, you can also just leave your lettering more plain, more monoline, without any weights. And let's see, I want to add kind of a swirl down here too. I don't like the one that I made. Gosh, what are they doing? It's like they're shooting a BB gun or something silly. Air gun, or I don't know. It's nothing that the dogs like, that's for sure, but they're behaving now. I used my stern voice. It usually works. Let's see. Like this maybe, or like that. I usually don't have to think about this so long. I don't know. Maybe I just don't do it because it's not coming naturally, and usually it does, so I'm just gonna not make a flourish down there. let's zoom out a little bit. Over in the chat, Kate says, so cute. Thank you. Hi, Dougie. Dankeschön. Na schön kreativ. Ja, wer bist du denn? Na schön kreativ. Ist auf jeden Fall ein lustiger Name. Ah, this coffee is so good, especially after chamomile tea. I know I keep repeating myself, but it was a trauma this morning. Okay, you guys, let me get rid of this pencil line down here. And last but not least, I'm gonna add some more texture and a little bit more definition with my colored pencils. So there's not much I'm going to add, honestly. It's just a little bit of like a hint of yellow here in the white part of the kitty. I just didn't want it to be as stark white as the paper. So I want it to be a little more subdued like this. And then I also add a bit of yellow to my fluffy stocking cloud. So I'm emphasizing the roundness of these shapes here. And then very lightly, I'll go over the other parts as well. Just really lightly. You still want it to appear white, but just not as white as the rest of the paper. Then with my red pencil, I'm gonna go over those parts that are in the shade or are darker to indicate a shadow. This is already really dark because of the cross hatching I did with the fineliner, so no need to go over this multiple times. But here in the folds of the fabric, it's always a good idea to make those a bit darker. And then adding a little bit of some texture here at the bottom of my stocking. If you like, you can go over your stocking and add some texture. It really depends what paper you're using. If you use a smooth paper, this will hardly show. If you have a very textured cold press or rough paper, then you'll see the paper texture shine through a lot more, of course. All right, here we go. Just trying to get rid of a few more of my pencil strokes. Please make sure that your fineliner drawing is really dry, because this is the moment where, you know, you are impatient and you want to get rid of the pencil lines and it's not completely dry and it will smear. Okay, this is it. Let's compare. I always love doing comparisons, and we actually have 3 things we can compare today. So this is from my tutorial that I did 3 years ago, and yeah, it's cute. Then this is the one that I did a few days ago. I really like this one. This is the one I think I might keep for myself. And then this is today's, and what I love about today's is that I made the head a bit different. So it's not a lot different. It's just, I feel like more squished and a bit more broader than this one, and I really like it. It looks like the cat is stuffed into the stocking even more. I think I like the shape of this stocking better than this one here. This is very straight. I do like the lettering. I think it has a nice flow and the flourishes. So yeah, I really do like both versions, honestly. So I'm just gonna take this off. And I usually really like to use a cutter, paper punch, to round the corners. It can get pretty hard when you have really thick watercolor paper, but as I said, this one is pretty thin, so no problem to do that. And then, as I mentioned before, you can just put this one on top of a larger card that has a nice color, for example. Or if you messed up some parts here, you know, you can just cut out the kitten, for example, and put that on a card. All right, you guys, as always, I would highly appreciate if you left me a comment and a thumbs up if you enjoyed this live stream today. It always helps my videos to get found more easily. This is, of course, going towards the end of the year, which means this will be the last live stream for this challenge. It's not going to be the last live stream this year, however. I will host another one, and this one will be about next year's challenge. I don't want to say too much at this point. What I can tell you is that we're not going to have just one color anymore. I know that quite a few of you struggled with this extremely limited color palette of just having basically 1 or 2 colors a month plus black and white. So that's going to be over. We're going to do something else next year. You can use all the colors. We're going to focus a bit more on Hawaii. So this year we did prompts all across the board. Some were Hawaii related, some were, you know, like this one, totally not Hawaii related. So next year it's going to be going back to the islands a bit more, and I'll keep you guys updated. So at the end of the year, sometime between Christmas and New Year, there'll be another live stream where I'll introduce next year's challenge. All right, so keep your eyes open for the next newsletter. If you haven't subscribed to my newsletter yet, I will leave a link down in the description box. I believe it's actually already there. And I will also announce it here in the posts and also over on my Instagram, Aloha Watercolors and the Aloha Studios. All right, my dears. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the month of December. I know some of you probably don't celebrate Christmas, so I don't want to say, you know, just Merry Christmas. I just wish you a very peaceful and restful rest of the year, and then a very happy new year. But as I said, I'll see you before that. I'll see you before the year is out. All right, you guys. I really had fun with this one. There was a lot happening today. I hope you enjoyed it too, and I'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye, aloha, and happy creating.